There you go, recording.
We're live.
Yeah, I just got a sign up in my corner that says recording.
That's right.
You guys are on, Paul.
We're on. So this afternoon, we're with John William Touhy, the author of many wonderful books, and our host. And we have Red Wemette, who is famous for reasons we're going to get into a little bit later. And then Camillus, you tell us a little bit about Gangland Wire and what you do.
Gangland Wire is a podcast that was started by Gary Jenkins, who was an intelligence officer in Kansas City, and I do a lot of the research, and I do a lot of episodes with him. I've done some writing on mob subjects, and I'm working on a couple things right now. But I do a lot of writing, and I do a lot of research for the podcast. We have a lot of fun with it, and I enjoy that, and I'm glad to be working with y'all today.
Thank you. You have a vast knowledge. I was telling Red, I'm pretty impressed.
I appreciate it.
Indeed, it's great to have you. And I'm Paul Whitcombe, former prosecutor, former federal law clerk, and armchair expert on all things outfit. John's more expert in the Capone era, the bootlegger era, and I pick up a little later, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then, Red, would you please tell us a little bit about your book and what it's about?
You have a copy there, Red, so we can see it?
There it is.
Can you see it?
I have it, Red. I can't really make it out. What's the name of your book?
Nobody Cares and What I Did About It.
Nobody Cares What I Did About It. It's available on Amazon, I should think, right?
What was it nobody cares about, Red?
Pardon me?
What was it nobody cares about?
The murders. At the time when I was all through this whole thing, I looked at people that were being put in trunks of cars, and I looked at it and said, this guy was a bookmaker. This guy, he didn't kill anybody. I mean, he wasn't a murderer, but these idiots were killing these people left and right and getting away with it. They literally got away with murder. You know, cliche to say you get away with murder. That guy got away with murder.
We need to emphasize for people watching this, what we're talking about here is the Chicago mob, and you were active from 68 or 9 through the 70s and 80s, right?
I became active in 1968 and all the way through the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Red, who are these people that you were interacting with in the outfit during those years? Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Yes, I sure can. My uncle was dating Marion McGann, and her brother was Curtis Hanson, and he was a bail bondsman at American Bonding. He also had a little place out in, I'm trying to think of a name. It was on US 30. It was called the Valley View Yak. It was a young adults club. He couldn't get a liquor license there because he was a convicted felon. But what happened was I went to work for him out there, and then I got hooked up with his brother, and eventually we were doing slot machines in Chicago Heights with Jimmy Couture. And
Jimmy the Bomber, right?
Yeah, Jimmy the Bomber. I like Jimmy. Jimmy was a nice guy. I mean, I never saw, most of these guys, I never really saw the bad part of them. I really didn't. Honestly, they treated me just like we're talking right now.
You know, Red said many times that when you first meet a mob guy, it's hard not to like them. They're friendly, they're funny. It's only later when you get into that, you know, when you're around them too long, then you see the other side.
Well, it's the muscle end. Kurt Hansen was the muscle end. He was a hitman.
Let me ask you,
And
Kurt Hansen, I know cops that were terrified of him. They swear he was psychotic, that he just had no conscience. Is that true?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, Mark Milton on Facebook had several altercations with him, several. And he tells me about them every so often, and they were rough. Kurt really only got rough with me one time. And I went to Marshal Cafano and said, here's the keys to the place. I'm through it, you people. I thought you were men of honor. You're garbage.
Yeah.
And Marshall just laughed, and I started walking away. These guys, two big guys. The one guy grabs me by one. I only weighed 145 pounds, and I was 6'1". These guys pick me up, bring me back. It was at the Red Fox Inn on North Avenue. And they bring me back and to Cafano, and he said, sit down and have a drink. I said, I don't want to drink with you. I don't even want to know you. And he was laughing. And so I started walking away again. It happened 2 or 3 times when they kept bringing me back. And finally he said, have a drink. So I said, okay, I'll have a scotch with a water fan. And the bartender came over and poured me a scotch. I went, popped it down, got up, walked again. And he said, hey, come back here, calm down. What's the matter? And I said, this guy's shooting at me all the time. He's trying to kill me. And so he said,
Hanson, right?
Yeah. And so he wanted to take over the business. He wanted to cheat Marshall Cafano and just get me out of the way completely. He just wanted to control the whole thing. And it was my idea.
When you hear the name Marshall Cafano, for those out there who don't know outfit history, the Camillus, what comes to mind when you think about Marshall Cafano?
Now,
Cafano was head of Vegas for a long time. I think he goes back a long way. I mean, right, Red? I mean, Cafano was one of the big guys in Chicago, but he was mainly known for his time in Vegas. A lot of the big hits throughout Chicago are attributed to Cafano and Cafano's guys. He was tight with Giancana, and there's guys like major hits like Ray down in Evanston, Indiana. What was the name? Ray Ryan. Yeah. Ray Ryan, an oil man. Cafano had a run-in with him, and he was blown up in his car. But basically, running Las Vegas before Spilatro got out there, that was Cafano's major area that a lot of people might know him for. But that and a lot of executions around town. Is that about right, Red?
Giancana's man. He was Sam Giancana's man.
Right. Exactly.
And Darlene, his wife, was having an affair with Sam Giancana, and he told me one time. He said, that's my ticket home. He said, when I get out of prison, that's my ticket home. He said, how could Sam refuse me? Because he'd go to a Yupa.
That would have been the Taylor Street crew, right?
I don't know. That was before my time. I really don't know.
Right.
Cafano, back in it was called Patch in Lily.
Right.
Giancana, Cafano, you can name virtually any boss, any guy in the 60s.
Right.
Out of the 42 gang. They think it may have been Alibaba and the 42 Thieves, but no one knows. And
patches, guy. There were 2 patches. There was a patch that was out west, and then there was a patch that was over on Taylor Street.
Taylor Street, yeah.
Taylor Street, yeah. I think they all came out of Taylor Street, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his lineage, through Ulrica and then down to Giancana. And Marshall Cafano, like Red said, his wife was having an affair, and he was really tight with Giancana.
Yeah.
Well, he thought he was going to get, when he came back, he got out of prison, he thought they would give him back his old territory, which he had. He had a territory. But what he didn't realize was no longer Sam Giancana wasn't there. He wasn't in power at the time. It was Joey Ayupa. And not only that, the other thing that he really never recognized was that when he left to go out to Vegas, somebody filled his gap. Somebody took over what he was doing. So you just can't come back to Chicago and say, okay, you're out of the picture. I'm taking everything back. I mean, that would have started a war.
For the benefit of the listeners, if you saw the film Casino, would be an example where Spilatro was sent out to Vegas to represent the Chicago mob and all the. Chicago declared itself the law of everything west of the Mississippi. So they ruled Chicago, and all the mobs just generally kept an eye out, up and aside from Chicago's interest. But prior to him, there was Caifano, but there was somebody in the middle, and I can't think of his name.
Johnny Roselli.
Johnny, yeah.
Yeah.
Handsome Johnny.
Machine businesses in Chicago, yeah. Johnny Roselli. All the ice machines in Vegas were owned by him.
Yep.
Legitimate corporation. It's a great idea. Think about it.
Absolutely.
Red, I was told that, I'm giving a summation. You were involved with some businesses, and these mob guys, like you said earlier, came and said, I just blew away Bob or whatever. I just want to be clear, you're not an informant, that you went to the FBI indignant and said, these guys are killing at random. And you became a, what's the word, Paul?
They called me a mole.
No, Paul had a legal term.
I would think in the documents you'd be listed as a confidential witness, a cooperating witness, cooperating confidential source. They never called you an informant in the paper, because that's not what you were. You didn't flip because of pressure.
I was called an informant by many people. John O'Brien called me that. Several people did.
I want to tell you, I've spoken to several people, and everyone referred to you as a brave guy. What you did was brave. Yeah. So good for you.
I never thought about it like that at the time. Fresh out of the Marine Corps, I thought this was a piece of cake. I looked at these guys. Little man, high school education practically.
Yeah.
And now, Red, you were one of the first guys to really come forward and take issue with what was going on. And there just weren't a lot of people going up to sort of taking on the outfit and taking steps against them. I mean, you were probably the first notable guy who not only informed but took active steps to take down members of the outfit. I mean, it was really something that you did to make recordings and to take on some heavy hitters, guys like Frank Schweihs and Lombard. I mean, you really interacted with a lot of big guys, and you really did a lot of steps against these guys that nobody was doing at the time. You were really one of the first.
Well, I did that at the very end. It was designed so I would never come out to trial.
Right.
And at the very end, it was all on my terms. It was all on my terms. And nobody really knew who I was. I used even when I called at the office, they would never contact me. They had no way of contacting me. But whenever I would call in the office, we had a code name, and it was my commanding officer in the Marine Corps. And the gals in the office got to know me by Art. They say, "Oh, hi, Art. How you doing? Yeah, he's not in right now," or something like that. But that was at the very end that I actually came out of the woodwork. But that was after Tony got murdered. When Tony and Mikey got murdered in 1986, I started making tapes about 5 months after that. And
well, after Marshall faded out, you got kind of passed along a little bit to, was it Louis the Mooch that next was your contact?
Actually, if you want to start in the beginning, it was Marshall Cafano. Then it went to Joey Lombardo, and then it went to Louis the Mooch when Joey went to prison.
What was Mooch's last name? I don't.
Eberly.
Oh.
He was the son of Tommy Eberly out of Tommy Eberly, the Genovese acting boss out of New York, and the son Louis Eberly, correct? That was shot, and Louis Eberly was living in Chicago, and he was a high up in the Grand Avenue.
Arcado had him picked up off the street and locked in a hotel room when his he was going to go out and shoot everybody in New York. God knows.
He made it public. He told everybody, "I'm going to revenge my father."
Yeah. You ever seen that famous photograph of his father running out into the ring after the The fight didn't go. He was going to beat up the referee. He didn't like the way the fight went.
Yeah. What I think kind of you see there, Red, is with Marshall Caifano. That was it. What now? When you got passed on, would that have been around 70, between 72 and 74, around maybe 73, 74, or 75?
Later, much later. It was around 1978, 79. Marshall, I'll tell you when it happened. Marshall went down to, he wanted me to buy these or get a loan from my bank for these stolen Westinghouse stock certificates. And what happened was I said, no way, I'm not doing it, because I know he's not going to pay back the loan. He's just going to take the money and whack me, you know. I said, no, I can't do that. I can't do it. And so he went to do it himself. I think that was in 79. And even in 79, his nephew, Richard Caifano, lived right behind me at Sandburg Village. And we used to go over there quite a bit. And he's an attorney. And he wrote me a letter from prison. And it said, I think I still have the letter, but he said, contact my nephew, Richard. He's my other attorney in Chicago. He will make arrangements on how we can still do business. Well, when I got that letter, all of a sudden I got whistled in. And so here I am. Somebody called me. I forget who it was. I think it was Mikey Schweihs called me and said, stop by the spot. We used to call it the spot. And it was Jimmy Kozo's place over on Racine Avenue. And Joey was there. And so he said, from now on, Phil Amato will be picking up all the money. He said, Johnny Rogers is out of the picture. He turned rat, and he testified against Caifano, and he's going to testify against me. So he said, we're all down. That's it. It's over.
Red, for people who are listening, it might be helpful to explain what business you were in and what the mob was muscling you for.
Right.
They really didn't muscle me. I'll be honest with you. There's a misconception about that. I talked to Jimmy Couture, and we were doing slot machines out in Kurt Hansen and I were putting in slot machines in taverns out in Chicago Heights. And Al Pilato's brother was chief of police, and he told us get out. He told us get out. So Couture told us, that's it. And so I had this idea. I had been tending bar on B-girl joints, buy the lady a drink, sir, that sort of thing. And Pigalle, which I believe was at State and Rush or it was Division and either State or Rush over in that area, and all the way along Wells Street, the Crystal Pistol, the Nocturne, all those places. And there was a porn store down the street, and Vito Dominicus asked me to fill in for him on a shift. And when I saw all the money they were taking in, I said, these places are a joke. And so I brought it in to Jimmy, and Jimmy said, go see Joey. He's a nicer boy. He'll take care of you. He'll take care of you. So then I went to American Bonding. And at American Bonding is where I met Phil Aldericio. I met Patsy Riccardi, Irv Weiner, Tony Spilaccio, Joey Lombardo, all those guys, that whole crew. I met them there. And that's when I asked for permission to open it up. And he assigned Marshall Caifano to take the back end of the business, the coin-operated amusements. We cut it 50-50. And so that was the arrangement. So I went in and asked for permission first. And nobody ever bothered me. Nobody ever. One time I had a guy, I don't know where he was from. I never did find out. But he pulled up, and I had owned my jukebox. My jukebox was my own. I had a tavern next door, too. Jukebox was my own. My vending machines were my own. everything was mine. And nobody ever bothered me with it until this one guy came along. He had a trailer, and he started taking my machines and pulling away from the wall, putting in Joker Poker and putting in this and putting in that. And I said, whoa, whoa. I said, get that stuff out of here. And he said, well, we were told. And I said, go back to wherever who told you to tell you that it was okay to come here, and don't come back. Don't come back here ever again. And so it was 2 days after that, I was over by Kozo's place, and Joey was sitting back in a chaise lounge, and he was puffing on a cigar. And he used to blow smoke rings when he laid back. He'd be by the pool. So anyway, I told him, I said, you know, these guys came by, and I don't know who they are. And he said, forget about it. Don't worry about it. He said, did they hurt you? And I said, no, I just told them go away. And he said, you did the right thing.
Let me ask you, Red, did you get to know Arcota in passing?
Pardon me?
Tony Arcota, did you get to meet him?
Who?
Arcota.
Arcota.
No,
Arcota.
never.
No.
Never. Never met Tony Accardo.
Remember when Richard Kane was murdered at Rosie's Sandwich Shop?
I sure do, because I saw it happen that day.
Well, you know who was driving Marshal Caetano that day was his nephew. I don't think it was the lawyer. I think it was another one.
No, Marshal Caetano set that whole thing up with Kane. There was a meeting. I knew about this ahead of time. There was going to be a meeting there. And Marshal Caetano was going to iron out some differences. Maybe there was talk of Sam Giancana coming back from Mexico and trying to do things there. And he set up that meeting in exchange for the permission to kill Ray Ryan, to murder Ray Ryan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Accardo deny him that permission?
He was never at the meeting.
Yeah.
He never showed up.
He's been asking for permission to hit Ray Ryan for years, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah.
got out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, his famous statement to Giancana was, I can't live knowing he's alive.
It was like the air he breathes is mine.
That's right.
But
Years in prison, I can see how that would upset a fella.
that FBI fellow you and I both know, Red, I've forgotten his name. O'Rourke. He went there and he said, you know, you couldn't tell who it was. You couldn't tell. He knew Kane. He said they shot his face off, literally.
Yeah.
He didn't know who it was. And it took
Two shot blasts, a side-by-side shotgun, sawed-off shotgun. And it was interesting. To me, it was interesting because the police took chalk and wrote it all the way around the body, you know, where the body lay. And then they removed the body. Well, Joey Lombardo, who I believe is the man that actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Double barrel. But he wrote inside there with chalk, white chalk, just like they used. He wrote inside, here lies the ghost of Richard Kane. Nobody could step on that thing. No, it was there forever. And the actual place, the sandwich shop, belonged to Jelly Belly, which was Jimmy Kozo's father.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I used to go in there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, Red, Lombardo's a guy who has quite a reputation around town, and some of it's earned, but kind of a like, you know, Joey the Clown and taking out the newspaper ad, and of course there's also the split of that is a guy who's got a propensity for violence, and you know, we know a lot of what he was accused for. What was he like on a personal basis, not, you know, outside of court and outside of a lot of the things that he did to get a lot of attention? When you would interact on a day-to-day, what was Lombardo like?
Whenever I was around him, he was real easygoing. He was very articulate and probably sharper than everybody else around him. That's why he was who he was. But there are many times I did a bedtime story and put it on YouTube. But there are many times when he put his arm on my shoulder and just talked to me like take it easy, kid. He always called me kid. They all called me kid. But he was easygoing. I never saw a mean time. I never saw him raise his voice, ever. Oh, yes, I did one time. He was, I guess the IRS was really hot on him. And this was right after Seaford murder. And they were really hot on him, really bad. And so he had an old Dodge, and it had, it was a junk car. It had primer paint on it. And it really looked like a junker. Inside it was nice, but, so he said, a lot of the guys in the neighborhood, they're driving around in Cadillacs and big cars, Electra 225s, whatever. And so he held a meeting. And at that meeting, he turned around and says, if I got to run around in that piece of crap, he said, none of you guys are going to be running around these fancy cars. Get rid of them. So somebody pointed the finger at me. And I had just bought a Cadillac Fleet Brougham Elegance, and it was decked out. And somebody said, well, what about him? I think it was Larry Petit. Larry Petit or Joey Petit, either one of the Petit brothers. They said, well, what about him? And he said, he's exempt. He's a businessman. He pays his taxes. He said he can afford it. If somebody says something, they're not going to jump on him. He can handle himself. So keep your mouth shut. That's the only time I ever really saw him raise his voice.
Question about, I'm sorry, Camillus, did you?
No, I've heard a lot of those tapes, the recordings during Pendorf and discussing the Wall Street Journal and different things. So yeah, there was sort of a lot to that, the intelligence, but you do see a lot of the violence and different things too. So it is, I think a lot of people do get the wrong impression. They see the cutout newspaper and things. So there was sort of this split. There's a lot of
out there about him being a clown.
Exactly, but
Red is talking about.
Yeah.
But he was affable. He was very affable. Even if you listen to the tape about him talking with Morris Shanker.
Yes.
I mean, he wasn't mean or raging. He just turned around and said, Alan's a very meek man. We're not meek.
Yes.
I mean, he just explained it very easy.
Yeah.
And
you will not make
how old are you now? Do you want to live?
Yeah.
And just said that very easily. I mean, it wasn't like he was screaming or raging on the phone like a maniac. He wasn't like Giancana. Giancana would go into a rage.
Yeah. Listen, we don't have a lot of time, but I think we really do have to discuss Frank Schweihs, the German, because again, like Hansen, I was told that there were cops who were afraid that he was a scary guy. But you told me, we talked one time, that the side you knew wasn't really like the legendary madman he's been made out to be.
Frank was a dangerous man. He just never got mad at me. I never gave him reason to.
Yeah.
Maybe I did give him reason to, and he just didn't take it because I would holler at him all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had words back between us, and when I did lose my temper with him, he'd start laughing and smiling and say, calm down, relax, have a drink, do something. But he was psychotic. He was totally psychotic.
You told me the story. He was dating a young Greek-American girl. I don't know the facts. And
Eugenia Pappas.
Why did he?
But that's a controversial story that he told me. It's on videotape with the FBI where he told me the story. And the story is that in 1962, someone from the CIA contacted Roselli. Roselli contacted Giancana, and Giancana contacted Milwaukee Phil. And he sent Tony Spilaccio and Frank Schweihs to murder Marilyn Monroe. And they did.
Right.
And when he came back, he used George J. Priesters out Milwaukee Airport, out in Milwaukee. They went out non-commercial. And when he came back, he told Eugenia Pappas why he was out there. Something romantic, or I don't know. Loose lips. Believe me, Frank had diarrhea of the mouth. This guy could not stop talking. It was bad. But after the word got out, I guess her uncle was a police officer. And after the word got out, he was told by Phil, you made a big mistake. You got to kill her. So in the front seat of his car, he shot her once in the chest, dumped her body in the Chicago River, and had the car crushed. It went to a crusher and got disposed of. And from what I understand from the family, because I've been contacted by the family since then, her sister contacted me, and her brother contacted me too. But they told me that for months they were getting, oh, we saw her here, we saw her there, we saw her here, and then all of a sudden she popped up dead in the river. She was dead all the time, and they tell her. Wow. And then Richard Kane is the guy that pulled him into for the investigation. He was chief of detectives, and he cleared him. But that's a real story of what happened. That's what he told me. Now, I wasn't there.
And he tells you this, like you said, he tells he's telling tales out of church, and he just and he tells you this story.
I don't know why he talked about murders a lot. Maybe to terrorize me or make me think a lot. You know, that I could be one of that he could turn on in a second. But he used to sit in that chair in my living room and look into an entertainment center, which had a camera on it, a microphone, just like we're talking now. And we had a Niagara backup on the bottom of the chair. But he would tell me things that never got to the public. The only things, the lawyers, defense attorneys, said that it wasn't relevant to the case. Alan Ackerman, he said it's not relative to the case. And Frank always got arrested. He had his record expunged, and he was actually, when he went into court with me, it was one of those kind of things where he said, Alan said in his opening argument, my client has probably offended every one of God's creatures. That's just a quote from him. But he said, but he's never been arrested before in his life because he always had it expunged. So he could tell the jury that. But he did, Eugenia Pappas, I don't know, what's his name? John Cass got in and wrote some things about it. And I had some different opinion with John Cass on a lot of things.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's right.
He's not my favorite person.
You too, Camille?
I have, John Cass is, I do have a few differences of opinion with John
too,
Cass.
yeah. Well, I guess that leaves you, Paul. If we need to.
He's a polarizing figure, I'll give you that much. But I've never met him personally.
Spoken like a true attorney.
It depends.
We have
very diplomatic.
You bet. But Red, you were really living during the most murderous phase of the Chicago outfit since the Capone days. Wasn't Upa? He was just chopping people left and right. Did you notice big uptick in that in the early 70s when Upa took over, that all of a sudden people are falling left and right?
Yes, I did. I noticed it. As a matter of fact, that was, as I said earlier, that was my main motivation for getting into it. It started really around 1968, 1969, 70, and it got worse. The chop shop wars, all the things. It just got worse. Billy Dauber.
The
a whole lot of mess.
The Chop Shop Wars and the Wild Bunch and the Calabrese Crew. I mean, you had so many, so much going on. 1977 especially is when it really hit the fan. It's a really good point by both of you. That was where the 70s is where it really ticked off with IAPA. It was really old school and heavy-handed.
And to add in there, Ricardo killing all those burglars.
John Mendel's crew, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
Isn't that when they planted a bomb in the car of Lenny Patrick's daughter?
Yes.
No, that was in 1990.
Bottom of the barrel, I think, by then.
That was 89.
89.
Yeah.
That was Carlisi. He was running things then, and he was just as murderous as Iupa, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
I
and sloppy,
you,
and sloppy too.
I forgot I told you who it was, Carlisi or Iopa, that he had his meetings at the Rock and Roll McDonald's in Chicago on Ohio Street. They're in big, wood paneled conference rooms and a McDonald's. He had high level meetings in McDonald's. I guess because it would be hard to record them, right?
Yeah, it would be loud, and it would be a lot of people in and out of there, and yeah.
They were sophisticated at that time. They didn't have Mayor's Row. When they got that bug in Mayor's Row, I think they killed everything.
Paul, it's 5:46.
Yes, sir. So we've got about, how many more minutes have we got, John? I haven't been watching the clock.
I mean,
We're about out.
if you need a few more, I guess we could do that. Yeah.
Well,
It's good to see you guys. It's very good to see you.
I think we need to explore this a little more. We haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
talk about it enough.
Absolutely.
Ray, do you want to come back?
Anytime.
All right. Well, we'll go down to your house.
You'll love it down here. You'll roast, but you'll love it. Except it's air conditioned inside.
To the story that you shot Al Capone in the leg once for losing the remote on your TV.
Oh, yeah. They had remotes then.
Big, heavy, thick cord, right?
That's something that's very interesting. Frank Schweihs made a comment, and he said, I don't give a damn if it's Al Capone's brother, and he comes back reincarnated. Well, Ralph Capone, Schweihs knew. He knew him bottles. He knew him from out Willow Springs in that area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Bach also.
Oh,
Wayne
yeah.
Bach knew him from out there. But, he moved to Wisconsin, retired. But he was a powerhouse. Nobody messed with him. Even Ricardo had respect for him all the way to the end. Rica had respect for him all the way to the end. And so a lot of people got confused when they saw it on TV because he invoked the name of Capone by saying, I don't care if it's Capone's brother. Well, they thought it was Al Capone. A lot of people throughout the country, when they see that, they look at it and say, oh, Capone, he knew Capone.
Right.
Speaking of which, did you see the movie Al Capone came out recently?
Hated it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or with Tom Hardy.
I haven't liked anything that's come out in a long time, really. I mean, some of them are entertaining, but I didn't like the one with Kevin Costner. I didn't like that one.
The Untouchables.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Real
didn't
bad.
like that one. I didn't like. I found Casino to be entertaining, but after I listened to Frank Collada, and his podcast or whatever he does, Frank was just a thief. He makes himself out to be a real big shot, a made guy.
Yeah.
He was in Vegas for a year and a half. A year and a half he was in Vegas. He went in 79, and they were broken up in, 81? A pimp, yeah.
Who made him?
Really?
Yeah. He was...
Who actually made him?
Well, for years he said he wasn't made, and then one day, like a few months ago on his podcast, he says,
Right.
Tony made me in Vegas at the steakhouse.
Yeah, Tony had the power to make him.
under boss
You
of
don't
law.
get the power. You got.
I assumed, and I think most people assume, that in the film Casino, he played the guy that kept going back to Chicago.
Yes.
Yes.
It was supposed to be him, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Also, he played when they were doing a murder in Costa Rica. He played the hitman for that,
Yeah.
and he played when he went after Alan King, who was supposed to be Alan Dorfman,
Right.
and he popped him back in the head over by the Hyatt House. I'll never forget that.
The Sonny Lister murder went down in the pool is what the first one was. Not Sonny Lister, but the Costa Rica murder, the way it was done with the pool was based on I can't remember the name. Sonny I can't remember the name, but
They
that was,
said his son got in trouble with drugs or something like that.
yeah.
And I found that was not to be true.
No.
There was a lot of dramatic license put into that movie.
Yes.
But it was dramatic and it was entertaining. I have to say it was.
I really, I mean, Casino I can watch over and over. I really can. I really enjoy it. A really epic movie. I do like that movie. I love that. I love that movie.
Done. Yeah.
Well, I'd really like to come back and talk about those films. I'd like to talk about Marilyn Monroe again. I'd like to talk about John F. Kennedy. I think we have a lot of things to talk about.
I'm going to take the opposite side. I don't think they killed Monroe, but a lot of people, Red does. We should talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we should.
If you read Milo Spalegro's book, Crip 33, now he was a detective. In 1989, I contacted him, and he offered me a great deal of money to authenticate his book because everything that I said happened. Her uncle went to Milo, and he wrote the book about what happened, and it all matched. It all matched. Every bit of it matched.
Yeah.
I'd like to read that.
Crip 33. You can find it on Amazon.
Should we stop here, Paul?
I think we better. We're going to start bleeding into our next talk.
I think
That's right.
I enjoyed it, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
Gentlemen,
I enjoyed it. Hold on.
pleasure.